Today on I Can Haz Armory, mostly for the refs or anybody else referring about maybe in club, how to identify a problem on the strip. Not fix the problem, identify the problem. Bit of a difference. So the referee's job is to adjudicate the bout, or as Derek Cotton once told me, apply the rules as you know them and don't care who wins. Of course, don't care is not the phrase he used, but that's neither here nor there. Make sure that the bouts are running smoothly, because if you slow a pool down because you're busy messing with something, it cascades down, it slows everything down, especially in a large event. So you need to identify the problems before you start swapping stuff around. If you start swapping stuff, as I've said many times before in this channel, you may luck into the solution, but then we, the armors, can't find what the problem actually is. So referees, don't start swapping gear without knowing what's going on. Don't let coaches do it. Do not let coaches grab a reel from a side strip, which I've seen happen, because they have no clue, and it's not their job. Your job is to adjudicate the bout, make sure things run smoothly. It is not to repair gear. Even if you have tools at the table and you know what the problem is on a reel, your job is not to fix the reel. Your job is to call the armors, let them bring a new reel out, and then they can fix the reel. Repair is not your job. I've seen refs do it. So you need to make sure you know how to find the problem. If you don't, it can slow things down. Story time. AFM last year in Santa Clara. This is the event where I fell and hurt myself at the end. Had an epee bout going across the arm from the arm, about 20 feet away, directly in front of me, as a matter of fact. And it was a typical epee type of problem. Bell guard test, right side, light went off. And that's not supposed to happen. It's supposed to ground out when you hit the bell guard. Referee's messing around with the right side, having swap weapons, swap cords, scratching his head, whatever. And that's not where the problem was. The problem was very obviously on the other side, but he didn't know that. So I finally got free, walked over to him, and said he needs some help because he recognized he was an armor. He said, yeah, what's going on? And I said, he explained what was going on, which I had already seen. And I asked him, did you have him unhook and swap sides and then retest? Now, I knew he hadn't done that, but I wanted him to think through it. Of course, he said no. I had him do that. I found the problem was indeed was the fencer's gear on the left-hand side. And we identified what the problem was, saw that he was able to fence again. But he spent 5 or 6, 7 minutes messing around with it before he got a chance to get help from me. And that's the time that the bout could have been going. You know, that could have been the entire bout if it was really if it was that way. So you need to identify where the problem is before you do anything else. Okay, so the first step to solving any of these problems in fencing is identifying where the problem is. Is it the tournament gear? Is it the fencer's gear? And how you do that, as I said earlier, you have the fencer unhook and swap sides. So let's give you the example. Epee bell guard test. Green side hits left side. His light comes on. Red tests. His light does not come on. So red side is grounding out. Green is not. In epee, it's going to be on the red side. But you got to verify that, right? So you got to verify if it's the tournament gear or the test gear or the fencer's gear. Have them unhook, swap sides, rehook, and test. If it is the tournament gear, the problem will stay on the green side. If it's the fencer's gear, it'll now show up on the red side because his gear is faulty and it moved. So if the problem follows, it's the fencer's gear. Problem does not follow, it's the tournament gear. The exception to this is para fencing, wheelchair guys, because they're tied down to the chairs are lashed down to the racks really, really firmly because they're moving a lot. So they can't easily up and swap. So yes, some of them are ambulatory, can swap physically, others can't. Don't waste time with that. In this case for paras, you unhook the floor cable from the back of their body cord because they don't go through a reel anymore. They go straight from the body cord through a floor cord to the box. And swap the cord ends. Rehook, retest. In this case, the indicator is reversed. If the problem moves, it is the tournament gear. Because remember, you're moving the tournament gear over. If the problem does not move, it's the fencer's gear. And then on the checks are the same. So for the rest of this video, we're going to do it as if it's able-bodied fencing because that's easier for me to do. Okay, so let's say you've identified it as tournament gear. You determine now, is it the floor cord, the reel, or the box? Okay. Now, is the boxes are rare. It happens, not nearly as often as the floor cord or reel going bad because they don't get a lot of punishment. The reel and the floor cord get much more punishment and more likely to fail. So how do you determine if it's the reel or the cord? You take the floor cord, unplug it from the reel. So now you have one end free, one end in the box, and you test it. So we take a screwdriver or something. Let's say, pretend this is an epee. You can go to the guard, take the A and B line, which is the two here, and short across the guard that way. So, boom, it's in contact. The guard's complete the circuit. You should get the light firing. If you do this one here, the BC, right, you should, if it's a Vivero, get a grounding light. If you do not, or it's not a Vivero, instead of shorten on the guard, have another fencer come over, the other fencer come over with his weapon, put his point on the C line and push down. If it does not fire, the cord's good. It's therefore the reel. If it does fire, it's probably the cord. The chances of them both going bad at the same time are kind of slim. That's to identify if it's the reel or the floor cord, and that goes for all weapons. In foil, what you would do is you take the floor cord, short B and C on the guard, because your light will be screaming at you because the circuit's open, and then if it shuts up, it's the reel. If you short BC, it doesn't shut up, it's the cord. Okay, that's to determine where it is, and then you can call the armor over. You tell them you isolated it down to this point. Please can replace. And there you go. And that's how to find the problem for the tournament gear. Now let's talk about personal gear. Okay, so let's go back to epee again. It's the same issue. You've identified it's the personal gear, is the weapon or the cord. You unplug the cord from the weapon. Again, it's epee. Do the same tests, right? Short AB, the A light should fire. Short BC, you should get the grounding light. If you don't, have the opponent come over, test the cord, again, the C line. And again, if it hits the C line and you do not get a light, that means the cord's good, it's the weapon. If you get the light, then that's the C line dead, it's the cord. Okay, so in foil, let's say it's a plug-in light's always going off. That means there's this opening in the BC line because these two lines are connected when it's plugged in. So how you figure that out? Unplug the cord, short to the guard like so, and if that shuts the machine off, then it was the weapon. Because on the cord, if the weapon keeps going, if the light keeps going, it's the cord. By the way, if you're doing it in foil, it's helpful to make sure, even in epee, make sure that the other opponent is not staying with its point on the ground like little kids will do, and not to keep firing the light, not to unplug, because it may screw the test up. So if that's how you find it, if it's the cord, you can also take the cord and pull on it and see if the wires stretch. If it stretches, it's the cord. If it's going off target in a beating action, something is loose. It might be some part of the foil, the tip's loose, the grip is loose, the socket's loose, or it could be some place that people always forget to check, which is right here. That connection, okay? You can have the cord perfectly fine, the weapon perfectly fine, and it really loose here. If it's wobbling a lot, grab it, wobble back and forth. You're doing this and the light goes off, that's the problem, which means these pins are smashed down. And just have the fencer swap cords to find one that fits tight, and then fix that later. That's what we always recommend, spread the pins before tournaments, so you have a nice, good, tight connection. People always forget to check that because you don't consider it, but that actually is a frequent problem point for foil if it's going off that way. If you're hitting on a valid surface, like the dead center here, and the light goes off white, that's a problem in the A line somewhere. So to identify if it's a cord or not, used to be bring the other fencer over, go to the back side, have the other fencer push this point down on the alligator clip. You push on the clip, and if it does not fire, that means if the light does not fire, correction, it's foil. If the light fires on target, the cord's fine. Fires off target, it's the cord. Okay. If it fires on target on the clip and off target on the lame, you might have a dead spot in the lame, and that's time to see if you find a different one. If it's a hit to the bib in foil, or the mask and saber. It could also be the mask cord, or it could be the tab. If you verify that the body cord's fine, how can you verify the mask cord? There's one way to do it. Take the mask cord, clip it to here, and then test on it, and then test on the mask, and then test on the other end of the mask cord. If it's good, it'll go through. For sabers, got to touch it, by the way. For foil to push down. If you do that, then it's the tab. How do you verify it's a tab? You would lift the tab surface off of the lame surface and then test on that. If you push the tab against the back of the lame, you'll complete that circuit. So that's why if you watch me doing control and I'm testing the lame tab on the saber foil lame, I'll lift the tab up. So it's isolated from the rest of the lame. So if there is a break in the seam where it's sewn down, which I did have happen last event I worked, that's what the problem is. Okay, if that happens, you gotta get another lame because you have to have the tab. So if you do all those things, you have identified if it's a tournament gear or the event or the personal gear. You identified what the gear is. You don't need to know what the problem is. Okay, it's helpful, but you don't need to know what the problem is. You need to know where it is, and then you have them surrender the bad gear to get something new. Call the armorers over to do the tournament stuff. If you're doing the cord to check it, I really recommend not threading it through the jacket before testing it. Plug into the reel, plug into the weapon, test. If it works, then put the cord through the jacket. Otherwise, you'll waste time. So that's one set of ways how you can identify where the problem is, potentially what the problem is, before you do the correct action, either confiscate the gear or call the armorers, and things can go much more smoothly if you do that. Happy armoring.